Welcome. We are here at the gorgeous Saffer Center to honor Suzanne Eisenberg, Judy Heumann, Rafi, Stephanie, and Noah. It's going to be an incredible evening where we all get to be inspired by their work. I am thrilled to be a part of it. I am Pamela Schuler, and I wish I could describe what I do in one succinct sentence, but I do something with comedy and keynote speaking and teaching, all focused on disability inclusion and mental health, like a Mod Podge of all of my favorite things. In fact, I like to say I know a lot about comedy, inclusion, and mental health, and literally nothing else. Last week, I spent 30 minutes trying to figure out what it means to broil something. I'm still unclear. If anyone knows. That's what I do for a living, but I also have a disability. I have Tourette syndrome, and I have a mental health challenge. I have obsessive, oh, there I am. And I have, didn't expect it. And I have clearly have a little ADD too. I have a mental health challenge, obsessive compulsive disorder. I am also 4'6.5". I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh my gosh, she's a triple threat. Thank you, I know. Over the years, I have taught at the Matan Institutes, hosted some things for them, and spoken at a few things. And a few years ago, Matan honored me at an event like this, which was so lovely. But by the way, they handed me the award, and in true Pam fashion, I dropped it and I shattered it immediately. And I think we all learned an important lesson about Tourette syndrome and breakable items, right? Joking aside, the reason I am involved with Matan and support their work is because it's the organization that I wish had been around when I was younger. It's the organization that if the Jewish educators in my life had been connected to, I probably wouldn't have been asked to leave my synagogue due to the disruptive nature of my Tourette's. And more than that, it would have been the organization that helped educators help me unlock the way I learn earlier in life. The theme for this evening is gratitude, #gratitude. And first of all, I'm so grateful that we are all able to come together here and virtually and celebrate inclusion, the work of Matan, and the work of our incredible honorees. This idea, as we yell in the hallway, this idea of gratitude is so powerful and runs deep. Well, I'll pay attention while that happens. This idea of gratitude is so powerful and runs deep. I'm going to tell you a story. Some of you have heard this story before. I'm going to share it anyway. When I was in high school, I ended up at a weird kid boarding school across the country from where I lived. And I was struggling with feeling different, with feeling like Tourette's took away from my world, with feeling like I had nothing to offer the world. And one day, I was sitting in math class, which I hated, and I was making almost like a metronome-type sound because of my Tourette's, right? My Tourette's was keeping a beat. And the math teacher came up to me quietly, and he said, hey, Pam. Hey, Pam, so many noises. I love it. This is great. This is my idea of inclusion. I love it. Anyone feel free to dance, do what you need to do. So I was making a metronome-type sound, and the math teacher came up to me quietly, and he said, hey, Pam, you kind of sound like a metronome. You want to write a song about math? And I got so excited about the idea, and so did the rest of my class, and we ended up writing and recording an entire CD about math with me sounding like a welcomed accompaniment in the background. And that day, this idea of inclusion shifted. It stopped feeling like what people couldn't do because I was there, and started feeling like what people got to do because I was there, because we were learning and growing with every single member. And that day, my idea of myself shifted. I stopped feeling like I took away from the world and started realizing I added something to this world. And I am so grateful that I had educators who helped me realize that it's okay if I do things differently, that I add something to this world. We all do. And it's okay to need an accommodation or a modification because we all need different things at different times to be successful. We all know that educators do more than teach. At least the good ones do, right? They help a young person unlock the way they learn. They help empower young people to be their authentic selves. They advocate to make the world a little more inclusive and accessible with every single student in mind. And Matan is training so many educators to be the great ones and empowering so many young people along the way. And tonight, we are here to honor a few of the great ones. First to be honored are the 3 teens who created the Matan Teen blog, which has reached thousands of viewers. Take a look at this video. These teens are going to blow you away.
You may not have any idea what someone sitting next to you on the bus or someone sitting next to you in your class may be dealing with.
Matan is an organization that helps promote awareness about different disabilities, and for the people who have said disabilities, it helps them feel included.
They push out really important resources for Jewish organizations and synagogues on how to be the most inclusive spaces possible for those with all different types of disabilities. Matan has given me the outlet to share my story, which is something that I hadn't done before being given the opportunity to write for the teen blog.
The idea to have a blog written by a teen perspective started with me.
Rafi reached out to us and said, I'm starting high school and I'm now really comfortable talking about being autistic. We really liked the idea of hearing from a first-person perspective about how someone is navigating life with a disability.
Matan came up with the idea of having other teens give their perspective. So we got Noah, who takes the perspective of Tourette's, and we had Stephanie, who's giving us some great articles about mental health.
To me, having this power of being able to reach out to people all over the world, it feels good to be able to help other people understand something that they might not understand otherwise.
If people don't hear from others who are having similar experiences, they can feel ashamed and alone. So I think it's really important to share their stories. Not only does it educate the general population, but also it helps people who are struggling realize that they're not alone.
I've been helping people who have disabilities speak up for themselves and advocate for themselves.
It's very empowering. I want to continue educating others. For this being part of my career, how do we as Jewish educators, as a Jewish community, advocate for inclusion and acceptance?
It's a completely Jewish imperative to include and to make sure that every member of the Jewish community has access.
Personal narrative can be really powerful and really impactful. And I think that Matan has helped me realize that it's also a really important way of spreading your message.
There are literally thousands of people now who have read these really wise perspectives. Tonight, we're honoring them. The WOW Award stands for Words of Wisdom. They're literally teaching us how to create the world that should be.
The whole point of this blog is to start important conversations, and as long as those conversations are being had, I think that it's achieving its goal.
Congratulations to my fellow honorees for being a part of this journey along with me.
I couldn't have been prouder of the three of us. We're doing a lot of good work here. For everyone in attendance, it's your investment that makes sure that Matan and other organizations like Matan grow.
Encouraging more people to be a part of this, I think, is a really positive thing.
Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Michelle Steinhardt, the Director of Special Projects for Matan. I want to invite Noah, Rafi, and Stephanie to come join me up here. Everyone fits up here? Okay. Rafi. Thank you for creating the amazing idea of sharing your story with the world and for working with us to create a team blog which has become a tremendous resource and support for so many. Noah and Stephanie, thank you for answering our call and for your enthusiasm and willingness to join Rafi in this brave and really important endeavor. You are truly changing the world by sharing your voices and your incredible words of wisdom. Wow. In the Talmud, Tamid 4a, Rabbi Hanina says, "Much I have learned from my rabbis, even more I have learned from my colleagues, but from my students I have learned more than from anyone else." You are all students who are taking the time out of your very busy schedules to build awareness, to advocate, and to empower. While some of you have actually been my students, which I'm actually very proud of, You are all students who are, through your blog and all of your inclusion work, you have become some of the greatest teachers of all. I am humbled in your presence and hopeful that with the three of you leading the way, our world will continue to become more inclusive each and every day. Thank you for being my teacher and for teaching all of us. It is an honor for us to be able to honor you. We're presenting each of you with this. And what it says on the back is Matan's annual event, June 1st, 2022. Wow, Words of Wisdom Award presented to Rafi Jocelyn, Stephanie Kalish, and Noah Brick. With appreciation, the Matan staff and board of directors, keep teaching us how to include. Thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts.
I have my phone just in case I need the flashlight. I'm Dory Fruman-Kirshner, and I am sorry that it rained tonight. I really am. The terrace is a gorgeous place to hang, and I really appreciate everybody making it work indoors. And it is so wonderful to see all of you here for such a great reason. So thank you. I'm proud to be here tonight to celebrate 5 incredible honorees in person and online with all of you. As Pam said before, the theme of tonight's evening is #gratitude, and we have a lot to be grateful for. When I look around this room, I feel inspired and full of energy to continue the important work that Matan does day in and day out. Because of the many people at home and all of you in this room, I have the honor to share with you that tonight we have met and exceeded our goal of $250,000. This is the most we've ever raised. It's almost double of what we've ever raised at our annual event. And because of a challenge grant that we're eligible for through Project Accelerate, any new or increased gift will be matched 50 cents to the dollar. The lives that have and will continue to be impacted because of your generosity will reverberate in the Jewish community for generations. And again, I just want to say thank you. The theme, as I mentioned, is gratitude. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank a lot of people. I'm going to try to keep it, concise. But I want to thank the Matan staff, most of whom are here or watching. In particular, Daniela Camus-Brown, who seriously, thank you. I don't know how you did every single thing to make this come together. We work with a phenomenal team of women, Raise consultants. They're called Raise Advisors, actually. They're fundraising consultants. They have literally helped me raise what we raise and raise the profile and the bar for everything that we do at Matan. I want to say thank you. I don't even know where she is in the room, but especially to Amy and Rachel. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank the Matan board, most of whom is here tonight, to honor our amazing leader. And so thank you. I want to thank the Plevin family for always lending support of any kind, and for sponsoring this event. I want to thank the advisory board, and last but not least, my own family, 2 members of whom are here from my nuclear family in New Jersey, and 2 members who flew here from Houston, Texas, because they love a good Matan event. I don't know where they are, but thank you, Mom and Dad, for being here. All of you have helped us reach this moment. This past year, over Zoom, we trained 3,500 people. Some in workshops, others in institutes, which meant a huge commitment of time, and hundreds and hundreds of people were then, hundreds of thousands of people were then impacted around the country, both with curricular items, stronger ability to include everyone, And most importantly, with just a lot more of awareness about how we all can be part of making the world a more inclusive place. We teach the Jewish community at Matan to live up to its promise, to include everyone in Jewish life. And so for that reason, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that we stand on the shoulders of giants who paved the way for us to be here today. Please turn your attention to the monitors and watch a trailer for the award-winning Crip Camp documentary, framing Judy Heumann's life and story. And I'll say something right before we turn it over to Judy. So please watch.
What, you want me to tell what happened? Well, 2 people got cramps and the Hispanic group were all very hyper about it. I have to go shower some people. See you later.
I wanted to be part of the world, but I didn't see anyone like me in it. I hear about a summer camp for the handicapped run by hippies. And somebody said you probably will smoke dope in the counselors, and I'm like, sign me up.
Come to Camp Jeanette and find yourself.
There I was in Woodstock.
You wouldn't be picked to be on the team back home, but at Jeanette, you had to go up the back.
Even when we were that young, we helped empower each other. It was allowing us to recognize that the status quo is not what it needed to be.
The world always wants us dead. We live with that reality.
At the time, so many kids just like me were being sent to institutions. It was just a continual struggle.
Most disabled people, like myself, are unable to use public transportation.
We needed a civil rights law of our own.
A rehabilitation program has been vetoed by the president because it was cost prohibitive.
We decided we were going to have a demonstration.
You get the call to action, to the barricades.
A small army of the handicapped have occupied this building for the past 11 days.
So many people from Camp Jeanette found their way into the building.
The FBI cut off the phones. The deaf people went, we know what to do. That's how we communicated to the people outside the building. The Black Panther Party would bring a hot meal. We were like this.
We are the strongest political force in this country.
We will no longer allow the government to oppress disabled individuals. And I would appreciate it if you would stop shaking your head in agreement when I don't think you understand what we are talking about.
What we saw at that camp was that our lives could be better.
If you don't demand what you believe in for yourself, you're not going to get it.
I said,
Would you like to see the handicapped people depicted as people?
Excuse me?
On your way out this evening, everyone will get a copy of Judy's book, her memoir called Being Human. It is my absolute honor to introduce Matan founder, Meredith Polsky, who currently serves as the National Director of Institutes and Training on our staff. Meredith, take it away.
Thank you, Noreen. This is such a special evening, and we thank you all so much for being a part of it. I am joining you now live from Addis Israel Congregation in Washington, D.C., where I have the distinct honor of introducing an incredible conversation between Sarah Wildman and Judy Heumann. Sarah Wildman is the author of Paper Love, Searching for the Girl My Grandfather Left Behind. She is an editor and writer at New York Times Opinion, and was previously an editor for NBC News Online and Foreign Policy Magazine, where she hosted and co-produced the podcast First Person. She's also been on staff at Vox and The New Republic. Sarah has received numerous fellowships and awards, including Pulitzer Center grants for covering issues shaping Jerusalem and Paris, among others. Judy Heumann is a lifelong advocate for the rights of disabled people. She has been instrumental in the development and implementation of legislation such as the Individuals with Disabilities Act, Education Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Her memoir, Being Human, an unrepentant memoir of a disability rights activist, co-authored by Kristen Joyner, was published in 2020. She is also featured in the Oscar-nominated documentary Crip Camp, A Disability Revolution. Judy produces a podcast called The Human Perspective, which features a variety of members from the disability community. Judy and Sarah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Judy, I cannot tell you what an honor it is. I swear I was like, will I be able to do this without crying? Because you're such a gibora. I can't even begin to say how in awe I am of you.
Thank you.
So I want to actually take us back a little bit to your childhood. Your parents were Holocaust survivors. Tell us a little bit about growing up with them in Brooklyn as a young child and how you felt there in Brooklyn.
Well, I frequently say that if it weren't for Brooklyn, I wouldn't be the woman that I am. The saying, if you make it in New York, you make it anywhere. If you make it in Brooklyn, that's definitely true. My parents, my mom was sent out when she was 12, and she was an only child. And she went to live with distant relatives that she didn't know. My father was 14, and he went to Brooklyn, and he knew some of the people that he was living with. So, you know, it was traumatic for both of them, obviously, but I think for my mother even more so, because literally at 12, she was whisked away onto a boat with someone that she didn't know to come to live in Chicago with someone she didn't know, with an expectation that she would see her parents someday again. So I think my parents taught me resilience and taught me about how you don't know what's going to happen, and you need to be strong and kind of prepared for anything. And so that, I think, really has allowed me, as I, moved through my life as a disabled person, because I had polio in 1949, and they didn't know anything about disability. They were newly married, and I was their first child, and my mother was pregnant with my brother in her 8th month when I had polio. So, they just made a decision that they were going to raise me.
They were not advised to raise you, though, were
That's
they?
right. I found out when I was 36 years old that a doctor had recommended that my parents put me in an institution when I was 2. And they didn't. And not only didn't they, but they must have, promised each other that they wouldn't tell me. So my dad told me when I was 36, I'm like, that's not true. He goes running up the stairs in the house in Brooklyn saying, Ilsa, isn't this true? And she said yes. But, I think my stories, particularly for that period of time, is not really unusual. But still today, we know that children with disabilities are, even though we have laws today that we didn't have then, parents really have to fight hard in many cases to make sure their kids are getting the education they need if they have disabilities.
You didn't have that opportunity, though, right away, did you? When all your friends were going to school, what happened?
Yeah, so my mom took me to school when I was 5. Jewish education, parents' responsibility to make sure you go to school and you study, teacher's obligation to teach you. So my mother took me to school, but the principal said I couldn't go to the school because I was a fire hazard, because I used a wheelchair. And so that really, I think, was the first time that my parents really were kind of struggling outside of their area of knowledge. And I didn't get to actually physically go to a school until I was 9. The Board of Ed in New York sent a teacher twice a week for a total of 2.5 hours a week for first, second, third, and half of the 4th grade. But my mother really, with the support of my dad, really did become a stronger and stronger advocate over the years. And as I was getting older, and it was becoming more age appropriate for me to be doing the advocacy, that transition naturally happened.
You said that you refused to accept what you were told you could be. Can you tell us what that means?
Well, my parents raised me. My dad was a Marine, so it was kind of, there's no such thing as can't. And so well, that's something that's abstract when you're younger. I think it's something that as I was getting older, that I started to address. So obviously, physical barriers which physically disabled people may be facing, that isn't something that you can remedy quickly. But in the film Crip Camp, you see disabled people and teenagers, where I think one of the values of the camp was that we were moving away from just complaining about the problems and beginning to think about solutions.
You have not only been a part of, but a leader in several movements for radical change, for not just rights for disabled people, but also for how the world sees disabled people. Let's start with your lawsuit against the Board of Ed. What happened there?
When I applied to be a teacher, I passed the written and I passed the oral exams, both given in inaccessible buildings. And you also had to have a medical exam, which was given in an inaccessible building. My friends carried me up and down the stairs, but I had a doctor who was probably the most unusual doctor to ever give anyone a medical exam. But to summarize it, read the book if you want to learn more about it. But to summarize it, I was denied my license in writing because of paralysis of both lower limbs, sequelae, and poliomyelitis. So I then had to make a decision about what to do. But remember, my father was a butcher. I was the oldest. We had no lawyers in our immediate surrounding. And one day, the New York Times did an article on my being denied my license. It was a Wednesday. And the next day, the New York Times did an editorial supporting my getting the job. And then I got a call from a lawyer named Roy Lucas, who was writing a civil rights book, who actually was one of the attorneys arguing to support the overturning of the decision in Roe versus Wade, so that women would have the right to choose. He called and said, I don't know anything about disability and discrimination. I'm writing a book. Give me information, basically. And at the end of the interview, I really liked him, and so I said, would you represent me? And he said yes.
So this is the beginning of, and we unfortunately don't have the time to get into all of the ways in which you have changed disability rights, but you've actually said the civil rights movement had originally left out disabled people. Why was that, do you think?
Well, I think if you look at the Civil Rights Act of '64, it does not include disabled people. And, really, it's something that we continue to fight for, which is allowing people to understand that disabled people, we have the same rights and must have the same rights, and we must be respected equally like anyone else.
But again and again, you were told, especially when fighting for Section 504, which I wish we could kind of explain a little bit, that they were going to offer separate but equal accommodations. What did that sound like to you?
Well, again, if you look at Crip Camp, you'll see that it clearly sounded wrong to all of us. And the demonstrations that took place pushing the Carter administration to sign the 504 regulations were predicated on the fact that we, as disabled people, wanted laws that would protect our rights to enable us to really gain access to education, to housing, to transportation, to employment, in order to be able to show people that we may do things differently, we may not do things differently, but at the end of the day, discriminating against us based on our disability is something that should not be permissible.
I don't want us to miss the chance to talk about what the Americans with Disabilities Act, but we are here tonight for Matan, and I want you to talk a little bit about why Matan matters to the Jewish community, what that inclusivity means, if you can.
I think inclusivity is what it's all about. It's critically important that disabled people and non-disabled people are coming together. And one of the important aspects of what I think has been going on in the Jewish community now for more than 10 years is a real commitment on the part of some to really look at what biases and prejudices have occurred within the Jewish community that have not allowed even Jews, disabled and non-disabled Jews, to feel respected and equal within our own community. So any opportunities where people can, in fact, come together, learn about who we are, our likes, our dislikes, our objectives in life, and work cohesively, I think that's critically important.
One of the things you said was that people tend to think equality is about treating everyone the same, but it's not exactly that, is it?
Well, in a certain way it is. You should treat everyone the same with respect. Now, what people may need in order to be able to enter a space may be different. So for some people, no sign language interpreter. For me, I don't need a sign language interpreter. But if you're deaf, you need a sign language interpreter in many cases. Captioning, various things like that. So it's looking at who we are and certain things like allergies to nuts. Clearly that is a disability because of the adverse effect that could have. And people are seeing that these are changes that we have to make in order to ensure that people can enter a space. And that I think people accept in some ways more than if someone has a speech disability, an intellectual disability, a physical disability, mental health disability. We've been isolated and separated from each other for so long. And I also feel that the media has really not appropriately represented disability.
Well, I want to thank you for chatting today, and I'm sorry that we don't have more time because there's so much I want to ask you about the necessity of visibility and why representation matters, but I know we actually have to present you. Meredith is going to be presenting you with an award, and I want to give her that chance to do that. Thank you so much for talking with me. I want to talk to you for an hour.
And I just want to say that everyone watching this needs to take a personal look at their lives and look at what they are doing or what they're not doing to advance the inclusion, in this case, of disabled people. But it's really a broader issue of inclusion of all in society.
Thank you.
Sarah and Judy, I have a feeling we will all be thinking about this conversation for a long time to come. Thank you so much to you both. When I co-founded Matan 22 years ago, it would have been beyond my wildest dreams to think that I would be standing here tonight presenting an award to Judy Heumann. Though she's receiving Matan's Impact Award, the word impact seems incredibly insufficient when considering all that Judy has accomplished and continues to achieve. Albert Einstein once said, "The pursuit of knowledge for its own sake, an almost fanatical love of justice, and the desire for personal independence, these are the features of the Jewish tradition which make me thank my stars that I belong to it." It is eminently clear that this is how Judy has lived her life, as a teacher, an advocate, a role model, and a mentor. She is powered by her Jewish roots, identity, and values, and we are so blessed that she is one of us. I don't think any of us would be here talking about Jewish disability inclusion without Judy's life's work. She is considered the mother of disability rights, and she has more than earned that distinction. Allowing us to honor you tonight is truly our greatest honor. It is my pleasure to present you with this Chamsa.
Beautiful.
Crafted especially for you by local DC artist Ilana Mendelson. It includes all the colors of the rainbow as an overarching symbol that inclusion at its core is about diversity, equity, fairness, and justice, everything you have fought for over your entire career. And, as you know, a Chamsa is said to protect. And we hope that is what this will do, hanging in your home. May you continue in your advocacy for many years to come in good health and surrounded by people who will join you and us in protecting the rights of every individual in our midst. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And now, I can hold it if you want, or you can
a little bit.
Yeah. And now we throw it back to New York City, where Tammy Reese, current Vice President of Matan's Board of Directors, will introduce our next honoree.
In preparation for this evening, I have watched Crib Camp, and if you haven't seen it, it is a truly fantastic documentary. So please carve out an hour and a half to do that. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. I'm Tammy Reese, proud board member at Matan, and I have the honor of introducing my friend Suzanne Eisenberg tonight. As you're about to see in this beautiful tribute video, Suzanne is a force. She gently pushes everyone to be better than they ever thought they could be. So let's watch that video now.
Suzanne is the engine that drives the train. She leads in a way that is pragmatic and from her heart. Suzanne's involvement with Matan really originated when Nathaniel, our younger son's developmental issues came to the forefront.
She got involved in Matan for that reason. It was a practical way for her to make a difference.
Suzanne came along and she has really helped us to codify our strategic directions, measuring of metrics. We are financially stable in a way that we have never been before.
She cares really deeply about Jewish communal life and both about advocacy for disabilities. And I think the link between those two is only a natural occurrence for her. They were bound to intersect.
I'm proud to be Jewish because I get to celebrate Shabbat every Friday night.
We were active members in Park Avenue Synagogue through the preschool and through the religious school. The need for support personnel to help support Nathaniel became apparent.
I think that she took that as a challenge and as an opportunity to help change things, not just for her son and her family, but for others.
One of the first meetings I sat in was a conversation with several parents about the issue of inclusion. And across the table is Suzanne, who gently, lovingly proceeds to tell us all the ways that we're sort of missing the mark on this issue and how much we could do better. It was her style. It was her grace. It was her love that actually wanted us to be better. From that moment on, she really led that effort and has continued to do so for years.
She has gently encouraged the partnership, and Matan has done incredible work with us, for us, in terms of comprehensive assessment of where we are, where we could be, where we should be.
Suzanne's passion for disability and inclusion derives from her fundamental belief that all humans are created equal and that everybody is holy.
She has been extremely open, saying this has to be at the forefront. And even if you're not impacted by it, you need to know about this and be aware of it and understand that you can be an ally along with us.
The more challenging part of this work is actual cultural change. How do you move a culture to be more accepting, more loving of every human being?
The impact that Suzanne has had has been this destigmatization of difference and really saying, no, what's normal is we're all different. That's what's normal.
Mom treats me with respect, and that makes me feel happy.
There's so much that has happened and changed since she's been involved with this committee and inspired so many people in our community to take it upon themselves to advocate for inclusion. I hope she feels so good about what she's been able to do, and I hope she knows that we wouldn't be where we are and wouldn't be going in the direction that we're going without her.
Suzanne, thank you so much.
You have had such an important impact on our community.
You are a beautiful mom.
Thanks for everything you've done for Nate and for me.
And for everybody who loves you so much. Mazel tov. Suzanne is the engine She leads in a way that is pragmatic.
Oh. No, just looping. Fueled by love and dedication to her family and Jewish traditions, Suzanne has become a strong advocate for people with disabilities. We are all grateful for the time and energy she invests in Matan. Suzanne leverages her experience as a program officer at the Atlantic Philanthropies and then as an independent consultant to nonprofit organizations and foundations to help bring Matan forward. During her almost decade on the board and 6 years as board president, she has helped expand Matan's services into community consultation and increased our budget by at least 25%. Tonight, we have raised over $250,000, much of which came from personal connections of Suzanne. If you haven't gotten a chance to donate, please go to matanevent.org or see Daniela. Give her a check or a pledge. We'll take anything. Every dollar helps advance our mission and creating a truly inclusive Jewish community. But Matan is far from the only place where Suzanne's impact is felt. Many of you know of her work at Park Avenue Synagogue, but she also helps out so many other community profit organizations through her work at the New York State Commission on National and Community Service and other volunteer work that she does. All of these groups know that Suzanne is a consummate professional and brings her all to everything that she does. And if you don't know this, she's a really big fan of Robert's Rules of Order. With her professionalism, it's often hard to know where you stand with her. I know that when I interviewed for the board, I wasn't sure I was allowed on and that I had earned my spot because she's just very good at keeping a clean face. But not tonight. Tonight, she is beaming with joy. Tonight, Matan has broken all previous records for fundraising. Tonight, she knows that she has shepherded in an era of unprecedented financial stability for Matan, which we know she cares a lot about. And tonight, her huge efforts to make Jewish spaces more inclusive are being recognized. Tonight, Suzanne's love and dedication to her family and community is in the spotlight. So everyone, please join me in applauding Suzanne as she takes the stage to receive an award. Ooh, boy. It's a good thing I wrote out my remarks, because I'm not going to be able to take a breath. First of all, thank you all for being here. And that video was amazing. I was totally kept in the dark, so you did a good job. I am really so touched by the generosity of spirit in this room. And I'm really glad we're all in person, albeit some of you masked, and to be sharing this event, this evening, this beautiful evening with many of you, with all of you here and many on live stream. First, I need to congratulate and say yasher koach to my co-honorees, to Judy Heumann, who you saw in that amazing conversation and video for her tireless advocacy and exceptional work in the disabilities field. And to Noah and to Rafi and to Stephanie, you are really wow for sharing your inspirational and personal stories. It is an honor for me to share this evening with you. The Matan Board and our Advisory Council have dedicated much of their personal and professional lives to being advocates for disability inclusion, and thank you all for being amazing partners. Dory, you are the engine that makes this organization run. And to you and to the Matan staff, many of whom you have heard from tonight, kudos on a spectacular evening. And thank you also to the Plevin family for being our event sponsor, and a huge thank you to the awesome Pam Schuler,
our evening MC. You bring happiness wherever you go. And of course, to my dearest Jamie, Jonathan, and Nate, you have always encouraged me, and your love this evening is palpable. And if I try to say more, I will definitely cry. So, back to the board. Okay, when we hold our Matan board meetings, as you heard about Robert Rules of Order, but we take turns crafting a Devar Torah. So there are a few clergy in the house, so please forgive me if I don't get this quite right. But this week's Parsha, starting the book of Numbers, is Bamidbar, and it gave me the spark for my comments tonight. The story, in part, is of the Jews taking a census, counting who was present while they were in the wilderness. So 20-odd years ago, when Jamie and I became parents of Nathaniel, we were wandering in unknown territory. We needed to learn and connect with others, and it became the start of a journey that while we are still on, the path and goals are much clearer now, and that is in a large part due to Matan. As a kid, I always loved those connect the dot books. The lines, the arcs, the frameworks that start literally out as random dots on a page and eventually morph into a recognizable image. But not to mix the metaphors, but like the wilderness journey, the dots and those people, the connections among my family, connections among my friends, and connections among the professionals and organizations that have enabled me to learn and grow as a parent of a now young adult with an ASD, have enabled us to create a picture that is recognizable, although not yet finished. In this room tonight, and many on live stream, are those who have been on this journey alongside of us, our tribes, dear friends at Park Avenue Synagogue, the JCC Silver Center for Special Needs, Next for Autism, Camp Ramah and its Tikva program, therapists, specialists, and just amazing family and friends who have helped us along the way. Our inclusion journey was sparked by Matan, and while the collection of dots, the people and organizations that supported us and helped us to fill in the picture moved us forward, it was Matan that first enabled us to understand what inclusion for Nathaniel and for our family could be. It's impressive. Unlike those Connect the Dot activity books, our dots were random, scattered in no real pattern, and they weren't numbered, so we didn't know where to go next. But Matan helped us to recognize that we could create a meaningful picture for Nate and our family and supported us on our journey. In the early 2000s, Matan was newly engaged with Park Avenue Synagogue to support diverse learners in its congregational school with a direct teacher model. Matan enabled Nathaniel to participate more meaningfully with typical peers and gave us the confidence that inclusion was not just an idea, but was real and valued. And you saw in the video some really wonderful pictures of our families, events, and simchas throughout that time. As my board service with Matan and my leadership of inclusion efforts at PAS grew together, and I began to see a fuller picture, not only were the educational supports needed, but we began to see how inclusion more broadly was critical for the community. Matan has led the way for more than 2 decades. The Matan Institutes, community assessments, workshops, and online resources, and might I say their pivot to remote learning was seamless during the pandemic, absolutely marvelous and masterful. And the resources provide the training and skills for thousands of Jewish professionals from congregational and day schools, camps, JCCs, and community organizations to expand inclusion. So what Matan began more than 20 years ago as a local direct teaching model has become a robust national organization that addresses inclusion across the lifespan. I am immensely proud to have played a part in this effort. Matan continues to grow and make important impacts in the Jewish community. The recognition last year by Project Accelerate and its challenge grant will enable Matan to strengthen its organizational infrastructure and expand its work. So, we have come out of the wilderness, sort of, and we continue to connect the dots to create a picture of what can be, and maybe, hopefully, that picture eventually will be of the promised land. So there's so much more to do, and I am excited to see where Matan will lead. Your support and love and my family's is so appreciated, and I thank you all for being here and for sharing in this joyful evening. Thank you.
Wow. We're all a little like teared up, right? We're all like composing ourselves. That was amazing. I literally knew almost everything. Hold down. You told me not to touch it. I literally knew almost everything that was happening tonight in advance, and I was still so incredibly moved. Thank you all for joining us this evening, to Matan for bringing us together and doing the work day after day after day, to our honorees, our incredible honorees who go above and beyond to make this world more inclusive. When I first started the journey of connecting back to Judaism after having doors closed to me because of Tourette's, I was terrified that inclusion wasn't a Jewish value. On my journey to feel Jewish again, after getting kicked out of that synagogue, an educator who was a friend of mine shared a prayer with me, and it connected to me in a way that nothing else had, and it started my journey back. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam mishaneh habriot. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes creatures different. How lucky are we to be in this place with these people doing this work. Another congrats to our honorees, Suzanne Eisenberg, Judy Human, Rafi, Stephanie, and Noah. Mazel tov. See you next year. And don't forget to eat some desserts and grab a goodie bag on your way out. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam mishaneh habriot. How lucky are we that we live in a world with differences. Have a good night, everyone.